Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unfiltered Flow ELSC, the podcast dedicated to the progression of the fluid power and automation industries. I'm Megan Cook. That's Alan Burdett. Today, we're super excited to have our very good friend and former colleague, Gorman Ng, on. Gorman is the Director of Business Development at Wooster Hydrostatics. Hey, Gorman.
How's it going? Good to see you, Megan. Good to see you, Alan.
Nice to see you, Gorman.
Okay, Gorman, we're going to go back a minute. How did you get started in the fluid power industry?
How did I get started? So this goes back to school when I was at Purdue. I was in ME, and I think it was junior year. Somehow I got talking with the dean of ag engineering, and so instead of getting to too much theory on the mechanical side, ag school was very similar, same program, except that focuses on hydraulics. So I transferred over and got my degree in ag and specialized in hydraulic design. Well, that's how I got into the hydraulic business.
It's been a blast ever since.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I question
Well,
myself every day.
Yeah.
and most of us do, Gorman. Don't feel
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
Well, I know from experience you've worked on a lot of projects. So could you tell me what was, say, the most fun or the most important project you ever worked on?
I think fun and most important. I think some of the fun, getting into it early on when I was at Lindy was actually, working with like companies like TireCat and Link Belts. When I was younger and I was able to go out into the field and actually play on the machines, aside from just engineering the system, being able to drive and play, just go out and instrument, prototype, different configurations. And so it was almost like being a kid again, instead of pushing around a little toy, you get to actually drive it, design it, and make changes to it. So, a lot of fun. So, and just working with different people.
So what kind of machines were you driving when you did this?
There were majority fellow bunchers, so the tire fellow bunchers, you had the larger 860, 870 fellow bunchers, and you get the zero tail swing when they're designing the 822s and the A's for TireCat. So yeah, and then getting into some of the harvesters and skidders. So it was a lot. And then with
Did you ever do any lifting with any of the cranes at Link Belt?
a little bit more in the yard, get to play in the yard, when we were designing the very first J7, which would be the 8100, the rough terrain RTC 8100, got to play in the yard a little bit with the design team at Link Belt. So then that was exciting. That was a first full hydrostatic drive vehicle, full Lindy system, from the drive to the winches and all the valving. So that was a lot of fun.
I thought for sure you were going to say your most fun or important project was managing the Eaton Lindy Alliance.
Well,
I don't,
that
I'm
was
I'm
that was a
extremely shocked that it was something other than that. I was waiting for that.
that was a lot of great learning and met a lot of great people. So that was a lot of fun, just traveling from Canfield to Eden Prairie and also to Spencer. So great guys at,
Such
Eaton.
a fun drive from
Such a fun
Eden Prairie
drive.
to Spencer, wasn't it?
Exactly. Especially in the winter.
Good stuff. So for people or professionals looking to stay ahead in fluid power today, what skills or areas of knowledge would you tell them to focus on to be successful in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's changed a little bit over time. I mean, we weren't it when we first got in. It was, I'll say, mainly for just pure hydraulic. Now, I think you definitely have to be more well-rounded. So getting into the electrification, just the electronic side of it, when you talk about electrification, grading that, IoT, that type. So a more well-rounded designer or engineer or salesperson, it's understanding not just the fluid power side, but the electronics.
Resounding these days. That's 99% of the time. I think that's how that question is answered
Right.
at this point.
So thinking about the industry as you've grown up in it, what do you think the biggest challenge is in the industry today?
Biggest challenges. I think getting some of the younger folks in the program, getting into hydraulics, it's Either that and also getting them well trained. Again, going back to the being well rounded, a lot of them want to come in, or very few people want to come into seems like, in the hydraulic business, and then getting them, trained, acclimated, and understanding not just one manufacturer, but multiple manufacturers.
If you could go
So
back to when you were starting out, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Stay away from Megan for one.
I don't think that was a choice. She was just kind of there when she was like, "Are we really hiring her?"
Really? Because you weren't one of 8 managers that
great.
interviewed me for the
That's
position?
great.
And who would you say was the
The
best
truth comes
interviewer
out
for you?
now.
I told you that after. You were the only one that had a quote unquote real interview outside of,
Uh,
JK.
Oh yeah, no, you were definitely a great hire. Um, what was your question again? Kind of threw me off there.
If you could go back,
Yeah.
what
uh,
piece of advice would you give yourself when you were starting out?
Do I really want to be in the hydraulic industry?
That
that's
keeps
not
coming up
advice.
too.
I know. Now that I'm older, it's like, wow. No, it's a piece of advice. I think just learning as much as you can. Take advantage of the people that you meet. Make sure you have a great connection with them. Stay connected. Myself, I blame myself. There's a lot of people that I've met, over the years, and just kind of lost contact. So it's aside from really understanding your product, whether you're a specific for rep for specific manufacturer or a general distribution, are the contacts that you have and the people that that you meet, and to stay connected. You never know where you're going to be, and you may have to ask for a favor or just communicate. It's like, hey, what have you seen this, or what can I help? They may reach out to you, so it goes both ways.
Well, when you're working projects and you're managing customer expectations, that's a pretty dynamic skill set you have to have. But what do you think is the most underrated skill set that somebody in the industry needs to have?
Underrated skill set. I'm not for sure. I can't think of anything that comes to mind. Can you think of anything that you would say? I can't. I guess communication, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. A
Yeah.
good answer we get is a lot of times is to listen.
Right.
Listening is the most underrated skill.
Listening, communicating. Just instead of jumping into or assuming what your customer, I guess from customer may say, just listen and then respond back.
Are we going to give him credit for that one, Megan? It took a little
What
Pass.
prompt.
I'll
what
take
about
pass.
you Houston say? These are really hard questions.
Who said that?
It
Somebody
brought me
told
a
us
little
that
bit. Yeah.
a week or two ago.
Here's an off the books one. What do you think about all the industry consolidation that's going on? And that's
I think
on
it's in,
both sides, right? Manufacturing and distribution. But
I think it's very interesting. I think that's the nature of current business nowadays, where it's consolidation. Just people want to get bigger and bring just the companies together and repackage and sell basically, and push off. So it's very interesting. I think that's just the norm right now. I mean, that we've been seeing over the last probably 10, 15 years, maybe, at a very high rate in the last 5 for sure. All the small companies are being gobbled up by these, larger, fund groups, that had, I'll say unlimited funds, but, that's looking for good companies to acquire. And I think with the kind of going back to the younger folks not coming in, you have all these older companies, smaller, older companies that, you don't have anyone that to take over. And so I think a lot of people are taking advantage of, I don't say selling out, but selling their business, into these larger groups.
too, and I think from a business perspective, buying power gets more difficult, right? As these animals get bigger, buying power changes, and sometimes it can make it, I think, challenging to compete that way.
Yeah, I see advantages and disadvantages. I mean, for, as the companies get larger, get potentially greater buying power. However, at times I feel that, and not to say poor management, but it's sort of they lose the skill set, and the people, and so it's you're breaking people up, and instead of one person that knows a lot, you're kind of divvying it out, and you're almost, I don't say dumbing it down, but dumbing it down to in a bad way.
Yeah. Agreed.
And so and it's an advantage of staying independent. There's if you can, and not wanting to to sell out or to cash in. I guess if you're an owner, it makes you that much stronger. I think in the marketplace. I think with like here at Wooster, there's really not too many people our size, with the skill set that we have, across the broad product spectrum, not just Lindy, it's Rexroth, it's Haglund's, it's Danfoss. So there's it's not too many people, that's small companies, that have that skill set.
Yeah.
Here's another off the books. What have you guys seen in the past 6 months to a year on the supply chain side? Has there been challenges? Not so much because of what you keep in stock? If any challenges are there?
I think it's stabilized. We're not seeing the 52-week lead times. I mean, some of the, I guess, depending on who we look at, there's a lot of, the manufacturers are stocking, some product. At times, we do still see in the norm of between maybe 8 weeks, 12 weeks lead time. But again, if it's a common commodity, I don't say commodity item, but, Worcester's very much into the repair side of the business. So a lot of mainstream components, I think the manufacturers are stocking. If it's not here, we do have other resources that we, reach out to. So, but somebody's stocking, majority of the parts. So turnaround time in general is pretty good.
Worcester's always been at the top on turnaround time period, honestly. There aren't many other organizations that can compete on turnaround that way.
Yeah, I think one of the key points is stocking inventory, and there are, I'll say, small handful of people out there that have inventory, parts to be able to do the turnaround or to be able to sell the parts. And Worcester's one, and we're always trying to get better.
Very good. Glad you joined us today. It's great to see your face. It's
It's
been a
great
minute.
seeing you. I'm waiting for us to get together sometime here in the near future.
I know. I need to get down there. I keep promising the girls and I haven't shown up, so I'll have to you can be one of the girls and come with us to lunch.
I'm in touch with my feminine side, so
I know you are. It wouldn't bother you one bit.
Alan, I would like to see you there as well.
Gosh, I'm getting too old to travel much anymore, Gorman,
Come on, never too old.
All right, buddy. We
Okay.
Thanks,
appreciate you.
Gorman. Yeah.
It's good to
Great.
see you. Tell the girls that we say hello.
I will, and don't be strangers. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the near future.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, take care.
Take care.